So number one is that a well is going to usually be uphill if the property is on a hill. Makes sense because the water will flow down, right? And then the septic is going to be downhill from the property, and they place these two things as far apart as possible. So they'll be on opposite sides of the house if you're looking for them. And I'll go into more detail in a septic related video, but right now let's just talk about wells. So here we go. You're looking for something like this. This is our wellhead. And underneath this, there's a whole bunch of different mechanisms that draw the water up from the aquifer into pipes that then run into the house. So you have your well pump below this. Ours went out the other week. That was not fun. We were without water for about 2 days. Well pump is operated by electrical power, and so it's important that you have some kind of backup electricity because yeah, you won't. So here in the garage, and it's really dirty, but whatever, you have the pressure storage tank for the well. And this actually should be empty. If it has water in it, that's a bad thing. It needs to be replaced. And then we've got our filter over here. You want to replace that every 3 to 6 months, depending on how dirty it's looking. Don't look at the outside. This is like a mess in here. And of course, all of that's running over here into our boiler system and into the house. So we've got that going over there. Next most common question I get behind wells is septic systems. So those two things tend to freak people out a little bit if they're coming from the city and not used to living in a rural area. But septic systems are nothing to be concerned about. They're actually really cool. And so instead of having one big centralized waste treatment, each house has their own individual one. And you're going to look for a couple of things. Number one is make sure you can locate your septic lids. And as I discussed in the well video, wells are going to be usually above the house, septic's below the house. If they're not on a hill, just look for them in opposite corners of the house. Ours is right over here towards the front. And you're also going to have a leach field somewhere. And a lot of times you can tell where the leach field is because it's a lot more green than the rest of the property. Because as you can imagine, the waste that goes there fertilizes the ground. So the septic system does need to be pumped and maintained at least every 2 years, but more like once a year. And it depends on how many people you have in the property. So when you're looking at a house, you'll want to check on what the septic was permitted for. Is it 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms? And that will tell you about the amount of occupancy that house should be able to handle with that septic system. And when you have your septic guy come pump your system, you'll be able to know based on what he tells you about how much he pumped out, and that will help you determine how often. You can see right behind me there's new construction going up across the street, and interestingly enough, those homes are actually on city water. So we're on a well right across the street, but that area was annexed into the city and is higher density housing, and they ran city water and sewer up through there, so they don't have well or septic. So what do you do if you are on a property and there is no well and you also can't get city water or sewer? There's something called a cistern. So cisterns are a really cost-effective, easy way to store water, and there's water delivery from several locations. Canyon City's the easiest and closest, and you can put water in thousands of gallon tanks and keep water on your property. There's also a really cool thing called a rainwater catch system, and these can be used to store gray water, which is then used throughout the property. So there's a couple other options besides city water and sewer available to you.